Okay. So we have a combination of people here. You're all, I'm guessing, you're in different levels of education, different stages of life. I'm going to guess, is anyone in high school still? No? In high school, okay. Excellent. So we have different levels. We have high school, some of you are in university, and some of you are out of university, right? So there's a mixture. So I'd love you to tell me, I've put some provocative pictures here. The idea of success, I think each of us defines it differently. How about you tell me, how would you define success? What do you think of when you think success?
Yes, for me, success is family. Also, it's work. And I like one phrase of Turkish poet, Nazim Hikmet.
Yeah.
He said that success is when you want to go to your work and you want to return to your family after work.
Very eloquently put, well said. Lady, gentleman, when you think success, what do you think?
Donald Trump. It's to live where you want to live. If you want to change places, you can change it easily. You don't have to wait for years. He was right. It's family and work. Something which you really love to do.
Okay.
That kind of work you even want to do without anything. Just.
Yep. And you, Max?
I guess you are successful if you are satisfied with your life. You can set your goals, you can reach them. If you are just happy, you are successful.
Yeah. I would say, in what each of you have said, in general, I would define success as if you look at yourself in the mirror every day, you're happy with what you see. Not just physically. I'm not talking about, oh, I feel a little bit fat. Oh, I feel too skinny. You actually, you're happy with what you've done, what you've accomplished. And people define it differently, as you will see here. I put some pictures on the screen. This guy on the right, who is that?
Donald Trump.
Did you guys know that, Donald Trump? Okay. What do you think, Donald? Who is Donald Trump? Have you've heard anything? What is that? What is this? This is where we lost all your money. I'm sorry about that. Yes. This is Wall Street, which is where?
New York.
Where in New York? What island? Manhattan. Yes. So this is Wall Street. That's the stock. Not you. Stock
market.
Yes, stock market. My father was a stockbroker. So he started working there when he was 26, trading as a stockbroker. And you know the stock market, obviously. So this is where the American economy gets a lot of its energy from. I don't know if you've heard, but the unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in 6 years. So we're below 6% in the US. That's important to know because a lot of people think maybe the American economy is going down and jobs aren't available, but unemployment is the lowest it's been in 6 years, which is encouraging for some of you that are interested in going abroad. Donald Trump is a real estate tycoon and mogul. He's also very well known for his show, The Apprentice. Did anyone see that show? No?
Yes.
If that's a show where anyway, if you haven't seen it, but anyway, he's very wealthy. So this is one way to define success. It's wealth. I would say these two gentlemen they're incredible. Do you know these people?
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, on the left is Steve Jobs, and who's on the right?
Bill Gates.
Yes. And they founded which companies?
Microsoft and Apple.
And where did they found those companies? Where was Microsoft founded?
In garage.
In Russia?
In garage.
Yeah. Oh, in a garage. I thought you said in Russia. Maybe. Maybe you came here. You're not far off. Actually, not Microsoft. That wasn't in a garage. But, so which state, which part of the United States was Microsoft founded?
California.
Northwest. Which state, which city?
Seattle.
Seattle. So Bill Gates was a student at the University of Washington, which is in Washington State, not Washington, D.C. And that is Northwest. Steve Jobs is from, where was he from? Is where?
California.
Northern or southern? Is it near LA? What do you think? It's near San Francisco. So Silicon Valley is 1 hour south of San Francisco. Cupertino is the headquarters of Apple. Now, Max, you're right. Steve Jobs founded Apple in his garage. In his garage. Here's a fact about Steve Jobs. He was kicked out of Apple. He founded Apple, and then the board, when they became very big, actually fired him from his own company. That was in the 80s. Then he came back and resurrected the company, because Apple wasn't always what it is. I don't know if you remember, Apple, the iPhones, the iPads, Apple actually was on the brink of extinction, essentially, bankruptcy. And Steve Jobs came back in the late 80s, early 90s to really revitalize the company. So who here has an iPhone? 1, 2, 3. No? You have Galaxy, Samsung? You like Samsung? Okay. Where did Steve Jobs graduate from? Which university?
Yes, he did not grade.
Hey, good, I tricked you. You're right. He failed out of college. It's actually amazing. What about Bill Gates?
Probably the same.
You're right. That's actually, I'm not here to tell you to fail out of school, to become like them. Neither of them graduated from university. So Steve Jobs went to Rice College, which is in Oregon. It's a small private liberal arts college. We will discuss that, what that is. And Bill Gates went to Washington, University of Washington, and didn't finish. These two individuals have basically shaped right now the future of the way we interact with each other. They had a big part of it, a big part in the way we communicate with each other. I mean, who here uses Google? Yandex, Google. Who here uses Contactia, Facebook? It's changed the way we talk to each other. It's changed the way we communicate. No longer here in Russia is that so far from me in Los Angeles. We may be distance-wise, далеко, but you're just a chat. All of you are just a chat away. And I can look up at any time. I can go on Google and I can look at anything. You don't need to go to a library anymore. People just go on Google. I do the same thing. We all have a responsibility now to remember that also the internet isn't the only thing, that it's not the truth necessarily. A lot of us go, hello, hi, come up front, please join us. It's okay. What do you think about technology? What are your thoughts? Is it good? Is it bad? It's good? Why?
It gives us a lot of opportunity to study, to know something we could never know about.
I agree. Anyone else? What do you think?
I suppose that technologies have also negative points, because
Okay, welcome. What do you think about technology? Is it good?
Yeah, sure, it's good.
Yeah? That's it? All right. Here, well, I think technology, as I'm going to start talking about jobs and education, I think we have to be careful and aware because we have all of us in this room have access to anything at any time. We can go in our pocket, pick up our phone, and look up anything. With that ability comes a certain responsibility to know what's true, what's not true, what can help you, what can hurt you. In the past, we were all raised in our one town, and we relied on people to tell us where to go, what to do. We all have the opportunity to do basically anything at any moment, look up anything, which is different from the way it used to be. And who knows Netflix? Anyone know Netflix? You know?
Yes.
You don't have this in Russia, do you? But what's the Russian version?
Trader.
Is it? Okay. What is that? Is that like a streaming?
It's free.
Okay. It's free.
Yes.
It's a torrent.
Yes.
You guys use a torrent here. Yeah, someone told me, said, yeah, no problem, it's a torrent. It's free. It's free. People use a torrent. Twitter, who uses Twitter? Instagram. Everyone, not me. I don't use it. We don't use it. No, everyone uses it. I'm 30 years old. I'm not ashamed. Ni stidna. I can tell you how old I am. I'm 30. When I was 18 or 17 applying to universities, I didn't have a cell phone. I actually didn't have a cell phone. So all this stuff now, it's changed the way we study. It's changed the way we interact with our fellow students. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just this is what it is now. Everyone's on Instagram. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Vkontakte. Which one's more popular here? Facebook or Vkontakte?
Contact in Russia.
Yeah, no?
Actually, I was living in Turkey, so in Turkey it's called Facebook.
In Turkey. You were
In
living
Tokyo.
Oh, in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Arigato gozaimasu.
Arigato.
Hajimemashite. Cool. Very cool. All right. What movie is this? It's not Godfather. Oh, close. Same genre, same director. Hello. Hi. Have a seat. Come up front. Don't be afraid of me. Okay. All right. This is the same director as Casino, same genre. It's Goodfellas. Yes. Goodfellas, directed by Martin Scorsese. Who has seen The Departed? You haven't seen The Departed? Have you seen The Great Gatsby?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so same director, very famous director. Now, this picture, this is a genre. This is obviously the Italian mafia. But I put this here because we're going to start talking about jobs, education. No, I don't want you to follow the example of the Italian mafia. But in the US, there's a combination of factors that are going to help you find a good job. And one of them is who you know. It's not only who you know, but everyone in the US has a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy that can get the job done. Everyone. Now, I'm not saying illegal stuff, but all of us have to rely on contacts to be successful. So if you think you're going to do it alone, you're wrong. All of us have to rely on somebody to give us pomish. It's impossible to do it alone. So no, I wouldn't take help from them, but all of you will need help from somebody along the way, a lot of help. I needed a lot of help to get this job. And what I do in the future, I will rely on other people. So don't be ashamed, and don't think you have to be hadinyoki, alone to do it.
Hello.
Impossible. Yeah. How do you say alone?
And you know it.
Yes, I did. Said it right. I'm taking Russian lessons. hard. And I'm trying. Я пробую. I've been coming to Russia for years and I'm finally taking lessons. And I love it, but it's hard. Who's this?
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. So, he is really fit. The second degree, in order to be successful, it's not only who you know, you have to be good. You can't just show up to a job interview and say, well, I know this guy. I'm ready to get the job. When do I begin? Doesn't work that way. Now, to acquire skill, education. To acquire skill, internships. Practical experience. Work experience. Can anyone do that, Kik? No. You can't, you don't have to literally do that to get a job. But Bruce Lee was very skillful. Anyone see Enter the Dragon? Oh, come on now. Yeah? You haven't seen it? Enter the Dragon? Remember his movie? That was a famous movie. Alright, anyway, I'll move on. Slebushi. He is one of my idols on the right. Robin Williams. Who has seen Mrs. Doubtfire? Yeah. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it. Incredible movie.
Could you repeat?
Yeah, do it. Miss, I'm going to write down. This makes me so happy to write this down. This is my favorite movie. Okay, very official presentation, writing down Mrs. Doubtfire. Okay, hold on. So, Doubtfire. Miss Doubtfire, can you see that? That is, now Robin Williams, to give you some background, he won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting. Anyone see this movie? Yeah. Okay. But obviously, tragically, he took his life. You know, you've heard about it. Robin Williams took his life. But if you've seen him act, I know this word you use in Russian, charisma. It's the same, right? He had it. He exuded charisma. He had a glow when he would perform, when he would act. He had a certain effervescence. It's the word in English. He had a certain, he would evoke such a sense of warmth, and he was so engaging when he would act. I highly recommend you seeing Miss Doubtfire, because you will see, I mean, I know it's not about career, I understand it's not about a job, I'm not talking about that. But when I say charisma, in terms of looking for work and trying to navigate the system in the US, you do need to have charisma. And obviously, I put our 42nd president here, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had this ability to just win over a crowd. He was so charismatic. He was so influential in his speaking. Even when in America, we were, Bill, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. He's like, well, I'll tell you, America, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to get through this together. We're going to find love in our hearts. We're going to beat this together. And everyone will just be won over by his charisma. You will need charisma to be successful. That doesn't mean you need to be a stand-up comedian or president. It doesn't mean that. But there are certain sorry, that's an S. Intangibles. What are intangibles? What does it mean if something is intangible or subjective? What is that? Any guess? They have it. What do they have? Yeah, what is charisma? You tell me what you think charisma is.
Ability to express your emotions.
That's good. That's one way. What's an intangible? What do you think? What's tangible is 2 plus 2 equals 4, or that is a brick wall, or that is a chair. That's tangible, that's practical. But intangible, what is that?
Unexpected.
Unexpected? Yes, that's an intangible. It's communicating with you. It's maybe what you can't exactly say what it is, but it's a feeling you get. It's like a чувство. When you talk to people, it's a certain effect when you speak with somebody. This is important in a job, in education. It's important what you're not discussing is almost sometimes more important than what you're discussing. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Who is that? Yes. How'd you see that? You have incredible eyesight. I'm impressed. Very good eyesight. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade with Sean Connery. Did anyone see this movie with Sean Connery? Junior, I named the dog Indiana. Do you remember this movie from 1988? Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Do you know this part of the movie at the end? Okay, so I'll tell you what this part is. There's a gap, there's a cliff, and he's about to enter where he believes the Holy Grail is held. Oops. And there's a cliff, there's a gap right here. And the only way to cross the gap is to believe, is to have faith that there's a bridge there, but he can't see it. So he takes a step. He can't see it, and he has to put his weight down where he doesn't see a bridge. And only belief allows him to pass. And then there's a bridge, and then you see in the movie all of a sudden a bridge appears. And then he makes it to where the Holy Grail is. Now, this is a euphemism. Euphemism. This is a metaphor for what all of us need in our life. And that is a bit of luck. Don't think that luck is not involved in being successful. Every single person who's been successful has had luck. Donald Trump, he doesn't talk about the fact that he was, hello, hi, добрый пожаловать, welcome. Yeah. Donald Trump was bankrupt twice. He doesn't talk about that. And the people that bailed him out, that paid him to no longer be bankrupt, were the banks. He was too big to fail. The banks, luckily, propped him up. His father was a real estate tycoon. He inherited a lot of money. A lot of us encounter people in our lives who are successful, but don't think for 1 second that they weren't lucky. All of us need luck. Now, not walking over a cliff like Indiana Jones. It's not magic, but all of us will need luck at some point. So don't be afraid to take help from somebody. Don't think you have to do it on your own. Okay. Who is this? Who? Master Yoda. Master Yoda was the first student to ever go to King's.
First student I was on the day of a system I live, where Luke Skywalker faced Vader and Obi-Wan.
Now, Master Yoda is a very, very smart man, or creature, or alien. I don't know what he is. Is he a man? Does anyone know? I don't know what Yoda is. What is he? I don't know, actually. I don't expect you to know. But Master Yoda had the power of the Sila, power of the Force. Now, when I tell you about charisma and intangibles and luck and skill and who you know, it is sort of the Force. And each of you needs to have your own force. Hopefully not with Darth Vader. Hopefully you will have the good force. But each of you needs to harness your own force in order to be successful. Now, how do you do that? So, what are the key important majors in the United States? Now, what is a major? What does that mean? What? Base? Yeah. Okay, let me rephrase the question. How many years are in a bachelor's degree in the United States? Anyone know?
3.
Not 3, but 4. Четыре. There are 4 years in a bachelor's degree. Some of you are interested in magistratura as well. Master's. How many years are in a master's degree? 2 or 1. Depends on what you study. And if, for those of you that want to do architecture, it's actually 3 years. It can be even longer. Now, when I say key majors, subjects, this doesn't mean you only have to do these to be successful. But this is what people are doing now. These are the main areas of concentration. Now, let me ask you a question. Okay, so let's say these are the 4 years of your bachelor's degree. When do you think you decide what concentrarse you want to study? When do you think? When do you have to know what you want to do or study? In those 4 years. When? Yes. Very good. Молодец. Actually, at the end of... Sorry, this diagram is terrible. I'm not a teacher. Diagram is bad. At the end of the 2nd year. So then you probably wonder, what do you study in the first 2 years if you only pick what you want at the end of the 2nd year? Well, actually, in the United States, for bakalavra, you will do a variety of classes, and you have to. You have no choice. In the 1st and 2nd year, it's incredibly general. Now, I thought I wanted to do business. I wound up doing psychology. I was a psychology major. And I decided at the end of the 2nd year. Now, in the US, what you graduate with doesn't mean you will work in that field. Am I a psychologist? Well, sort of. I'm reading your mind. Sort of. But even if you graduate with one of these majors, that doesn't mean you have to go into that profession. Not necessarily. Now, those of you that want a master's degree, it's a little bit different because you need to know before you spend all that money what you're doing. It's different. But still, in the United States, if you get a master's in business, MBA, that doesn't mean you'll necessarily be in business. Now, people go to law school just so they have the degree. They don't all go into law. Sometimes they go into politics. Sometimes they go into teaching. So it's very general. You have to keep in mind, in the U.S., incredibly general. Now, what do you want to study? What are you interested in, some of you? What? Programming. Very good career. You don't know yet? What do you want to study? What do you study?
I'm studying the computer operator and engineering.
Very cool.
I want to study business.
Business?
International relations.
IR?
Economics.
Economics?
Management.
Management? Dad? You want to study management with your son? Logistics. Marketing. Engineering. Nice. We have a very diverse group here. I would say a lot of you fall in these categories. And here is a secret. Liberal arts. Now, liberal arts is probably not very common here. Am I right? I'm right. It's not very common. In the US, I have a little secret for you. Some of you want to do engineering, some of you want to do business, logistics. There were a few differences. But don't be afraid to pursue liberal arts as well. Now, why do you think a company would want someone from one of these fields? Why do you think it would be an advantage? Even if you're applying for an engineering job or a business job, why would something in liberal arts be helpful or make you attractive? In the US?
Different point of view.
Because we like to talk about feelings in the United States. And it's very important to understand communication with each other.
This is the trend now. Human resources departments assume, may I say Alex? Alexander? Did I even get your name right? What's your name again? Alexander. Okay. You wanted to do engineering, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in an engineering interview, they assume Alexander wants to do engineering. So now, it's no longer a discussion about engineering. They could ask you a question. For example, what's your favorite book? I swear, it's crazy, but, well, that's an example, so don't learn your favorite book right now. But to give you an example, now hiring managers, they already know you want a job in that field. So it becomes, what do you know, what makes you diverse? What adds value to their company? How can you add something to that company that they already don't have, So liberal arts, I want you to think about this. Maybe you don't study something in liberal arts. You're in different levels. Some of you want masters or bachelors. But think about the fact that it's not just what you know for your job. You need to have a well-rounded portfolio. Hiring managers don't only want to see that you only do one thing. It's all about being diverse now. You need to try to diversify what you study. Liberal arts is a good way to do that. To give you an example, I studied psychology, but I don't use psychology. Now that doesn't mean, oh, look at me, I'm special. But I did psychology, and a lot of people might think here in the education system, why would you study psychology if you're not going to use it? In the US, it's very common to use liberal arts before you do something completely different. So keep that in mind. Well-rounded portfolio. Whoops, that's not okay. Whoa. Is there a camera up there?
This is the spirit.
It's a spirit. Hello. It's the internship spirit. Okay. Internship. Okay. What does it start with? Now, I'm not saying you're going to do construction, but there's a symbol here. What do you think I'm trying to say with these pictures? What is this a metaphor?
You need to work
You need to work how?
hard.
Yeah. You actually will make a cup of coffee. I'm not kidding. Even graduates from Harvard, I'm not kidding you, their first job, their first internship involves making coffee, making copies, working hard. Getting a good degree doesn't mean that you are going to A, get the job, or B, impress people. You have to have a humility. You have to be humble. So remember, when you're looking at where you want to study, your attitude, charisma, intangibles, have a lot to do with succeeding at your job. Everyone in the United States makes copies, makes coffee. I know it's not glamorous. However, oh, this is the right pointer. There it is. Yes. It ends with, okay, this is not everyone's definition of success, but it does start with hard work. And I know it's cliche, and I know people think, hard work, I've heard it a million times, everyone says work hard. But each of you, you have jobs, some of you, and you know what it's like when you have somebody who works in your company who doesn't work hard, who doesn't show eagerness. It's not cliche to say, being humble is very, very important. So hopefully we can all have that house, if you don't already. I hope to have that house, and that Bentley, maybe. Okay, so let's talk about practical application of internships. Let's talk about jobs. I'm going to give you actual details now. So, internship. What do you think an internship is in the U.S.? You tell me. What have you heard? What do you do in internships? When does it happen?
Within the course.
During the course?
During the,
Huh?
it's in the frames of the program normally.
Yeah. But also after?
After the course.
I'm going to give you the kluch right now. I'm going to give you the kluch, the key. An internship is your key to getting a future job in the U.S., or one of them. Now, some of you are thinking about studying abroad. Some? Yeah, hopefully. Internship is your way to show a company, to debut, to audition. I'll give you the different types of internships. One is called CPT, Curricular Practical Training. This is during your bachelor's or master's degree. Now, how do you get an internship? Different ways. One, companies will go to the campus at which you study, and they will interview you. Two, career services department. There are departments at each university in the United States devoted to helping you with finding an internship. Three, your advisor. You will have advisors when you study, and they guide you on where you can do an internship. Now, it's very important to know you can't just go to any company and say, I want an internship, because it has to coincide with your visa. It has to be approved by your university. You're on a student visa. So, you need to make sure that it's approved officially. So that's something to keep in mind. If some of you study, you can't just go to any company and get an internship. Internship is unpaid. Unpaid. So you'll be a student. Curricular practical training is unpaid in almost all instances. Number two, cooperative education. This is when you go to a company and you get course credit for the work that you do. So you actually get credits towards your degree for the work that you do. And this is something that you can find at a university or a master's degree. Number three, optional practical training. This is really important. This is after your degree, either bachelor's or master's. Up to a year on a student visa, a company pays you. You will be paid during this period on a student visa. And this is your opportunity to audition for that company. This is an audition. Tell me, what have you heard in the USA about hiring foreigners?
Mountains, rivers in New York, Freedom and great economics.
I love it. Thank you. I like that. That was very poetic. I like that. Mountains, rivers. I feel very good now. I feel very positive. I guess that's one thing you've heard. In terms of jobs, what do people tell you? I'm sure you have friends who've gone to USA or tried to get a job. So you could be honest with me. What do you hear? Do people tell you it's easy, it's hard? What do they say?
If you are well qualified and if you really want to work, then you will find a job.
Anyone else? You have friends? You worked at a fish factory?
But actually it wasn't student visa to G1 visa.
It was work and travel.
Yeah.
Okay. What did people tell you? Did you talk to people about how to find a job in the future?
If you want to go find.
Yeah? Okay. I'm actually curious. There's no agenda. I want to hear your feedback. What do your friends say? So positive. Dad? What? Ruslan before Dad.
I know that it's very hard, it's very difficult to take a well-paid job in the US. You can take a job in McDonald's, for example, but not in a big company.
Okay. Yeah. I want to hear. What have you heard? You have friends in the U.S.? Okay. Positive, sort of more realistic. What do you think? Can you get the job? Do you think it's possible? Возможность? Yeah?
Yeah, I also think it's
Okay. The reason I'm asking you, actually, I want to hear Alex. What do you think? Alexander? Yeah? You've been in the U.S. quite a bit, right? Okay. I'm happy to hear this because sometimes people think it's impossible. They think the only way to get a job is to work illegally in a restaurant on a student visa. I'm going to be honest with you. This is, I know what happens. They think you have to be a waiter at a restaurant and work illegally. Or they think it's impossible, I just have to get married with someone who's American. I'm being honest. But that's not true. And just because you're a foreigner doesn't mean that you have a disadvantage to find a job. If you do education, now the key is, if you go through education, you have as good of a chance as anyone else at finding a job. Now, this is why. So, let's go here. Elephant. H-1B visa, work visa. How much money does it cost for a company to hire you? Do you know?
$300.
I wish. 10,000. An H-1B visa costs $10,000 for a company to sponsor you.
A year.
No, one time. That's for the visa. Now, when you do OPT or CPT, you need to be thinking about that this is an audition for when the company will eventually pay that amount of money for your work visa. $10,000 in the grand scheme is not that much money for that company, hopefully. But your job is to show them почему or зачем. That is your job when you have an internship, is to explain to them, to demonstrate why you're worth it. A work visa is not magic. It's not this unknown thing. It's very simple. Are you worth $10,000 of a company's money? If you have the right kind of education, the right attitude, the right skills, the right portfolio, the right contacts, the right connection, and just enough luck, you can get this work visa. It's not an impossibility. So that's what it is. A work visa is $10,000. That can start the process for you to work in the US for the rest of your life if you wanted to. It's not a secret. It's not this kind of game. How many hours per week can you work on a student visa?
20 hours.
Very good, Max. Very good. But that doesn't mean you're working with Bill Gates for 20 hours per week. That is like a campus job. That's like pocket money. 20 hours per week is not your internship. It's like working for cash on the campus or doing some kind of basic job. It's separate from your internship. It's always important to talk with the staff at the university before you discuss jobs, because they can tell you what's available for your student visa. Remember, you don't have to be a waiter at a restaurant to get a job. And a lot of people think that's the only way to find work. It's not true. If you go through the proper channels, the proper direction, you can find a job, an opportunity. Okay. How to nail. We have an expression in English, the elephant in the room. Now, don't talk about the elephant in the room. The expression for the elephant in the room, you tell me what you think this means. An elephant is huge. Everyone can see it. Everyone knows it's there. So what do you think I mean when I say, don't talk about the elephant in the room in a job interview? What do you think I mean?
Don't need to talk about something everyone knows.
Yes. What's obvious? What's obvious in a job interview? Yes. It's obvious. The employer knows you need a job. The employer knows that you want a job. The employer knows that you're interested in a job in that field. So if you're applying for a job in business, they know you're interested in business. They know you need a job, otherwise, or you're interested in a job. The idea is, this is the way it is now. The idea is showing them something they don't know. What can you bring to the company? What makes you separate? How are you differentiated from other people? Because everyone is going in that office and telling them, I want a job in this field. I need a job. I love business. I love engineering. I love your company because I love it. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear, what do you have to say that they haven't heard? So you need to be thinking about ways to differentiate yourself, giving them a fresh perspective, a new perspective. I keep forgetting there's 2 remotes. Thanks. You can tell me. Eric, no, wrong remote. Okay. So how do you get a work visa? What are the ways? Who pays for it? Okay, so a few different ways. Assuming though some of you go and do education in the USA. 1, the CPT company, remember, curricular practical training is during your bachelor's or master's. That company, from that internship that you did, decides, hey, this guy, Max, he made a really nice cup of coffee. No, I'm kidding. Kidding. They remember you, and they say, you know what? That guy, that girl, they're worth the work visa. I want them to come work for us. That's one way. Number 2, after your bachelor's or master's, the optional practical training company, you work up to a year on a student visa, and they say, you know what? They did a really nice job. I want you to come work for us. So either during your degree or after your degree, you impress a company, and they give you an opportunity. They pay for your work visa. Remember, $10,000 to sponsor you. Now, number 2, another company sponsors you. What does that mean? Well, I'll give you an example. This is why education is so important. You get something called an alumni network. This is очень важно. This is so crucial. Alumni network. What are alumni?
Students.
Graduates, people who have done the same thing that you've done. Each of you will be given the ключ to a network of people that have gone through the same program. When you graduate from a good bachelor's or master's degree, you will have access to hundreds of people who've gone through the same program. They will be willing to talk to you about how to find work and helping you with your search. Remember, the elephant in the room though. I'm going to give you a tip. This is something I've used in my own life, and I can tell you it's important to know this. You can't email them and say, I want a job. It's all about playing the game. There's a game within the network, and that is, you will say this. I'm going to give you a sentence, or I'll give you a way to phrase it. You say, Dear so-and-so, I noticed that you were on the alumni network. I'm really interested in this type of work because I've looked into this area and I've done this research and I have this idea. I'd love to have a chance to talk with you more about your field and get to know your ideas. That is an initial step. Nowhere in that statement did I say, I want a job, and you will give it to me. I need a job. Doesn't work that way. It's all about talking around what's obvious. This is what people do. If you graduate from a good program, and we will talk, I haven't even told you about different master's degrees or bachelor's degrees, you will get an alumni network. I am telling you for a fact, my job and my experience with work, every single job has been based on my alumni network. It was very valuable. So in a way, yes, you're paying for образование. Yes, you're paying for знания. Yes, you're paying for the experience. But you're also paying that tuition for the contacts, for the connections. That's a huge part of a very good degree. Not something to overlook. So other companies can sponsor you. Doesn't just have to be in your internships. You meet people from your degree and they are impressed by you. And then the last option, it is not a failure. A lot of people think if they can't get a job in the immediate term after getting a very good degree, that somehow it's a failure. They're wrong. Coming back to your home country with a high-quality U.S. education gives you an edge, an advantage over other people, that you have now two perspectives, two different cultures, two different countries in which you've worked and studied, and you can offer companies back home something that they can't get from someone who's only been from one perspective. So keep that in mind. It's not a failure. Because that company here or in another country, if you don't do it in the USA, they may decide to sponsor you to go abroad in the US or transfer you to a different company. Don't forget that it doesn't always work out exactly the way you want. So getting a high-quality degree is something that you have forever. It's not something that just goes away if you don't get a job immediately. A lot of people get very upset if they can't get a job immediately. Sometimes it takes 1 or 2 attempts to get the right kind of fit or for a company to sponsor you. And the alumni network and your experience is something you have forever. Those contacts don't go away if you did a good job. Have you seen this picture before of the iceberg?
Yeah.
Okay, so what does it mean?
there's more to under the surface.
This is a famous diagram. There's way more of the iceberg below the surface than what you actually see. So the ship, you can't see there. The ship is above the water, and it only sees the tip. But below the water is this massive structure. And obviously, you know this guy. Who's that?
Basketball
Yeah.
can shoot the ball to the bed.
Yes, to the bed. But do you know who that is?
To the bed.
Yeah. What is
To
it?
the basket.
Yes, but who is that? Who's the athlete? What's his name? Michael Jordan. He's considered the greatest NBA player of all time.
Because in gym I'm thinking about this film.
Oh, which gym? Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Space Jam, yeah. That's right, he was in Space Jam. Let me tell you something about Michael Jordan.
Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny, yes. Michael Jordan was cut from his freshman year of high school, his sophomore basketball team, his high school basketball team. What does cut mean?
Michael Jordan have a very long arms
Yeah,
in the end of field.
you're right, he does. Yes, Space Jam. He was cut, though, from his team. The coach didn't let him on the squad.
How come?
They didn't think he was good enough. It's a true story. He's the greatest NBA player of all time, and his high school basketball coach didn't allow him on the team, said you're cut from the team. That is just a small example of this guy is the most successful basketball player of all time, and he was told you're not good enough. And I know it's cliche, and everyone says, oh, I hear everyone say, keep trying, try hard. But don't forget that it takes a lot of effort and skill to be successful, and just because people tell you maybe once or twice that you're not accepted, or you're rejected, or you're denied, you need to remember to keep trying. It's not cliche. It's not something that should be unsaid. It's important to remember, to truly believe in your ability. And don't forget that. Don't allow people to be cynical or pessimistic and tell you that you can't. It's not right and it's not true. Each of you has the ability to pursue what you want if you try hard. Which one is it again? This one? Okay. You probably thought I was going to talk about education. How much time do we have? Do we still have time?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about образование. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions about Ivy League, and it's confusing. Let's start from the beginning, and I don't blame you at all, because I know it's confusing. American education system doesn't make sense. So I'm going to do my best to try to make it clear. And don't be shy. I want to hear your questions. First of all, Ivy League. What is Ivy? What is it?
In Russian, it's a plant.
It's a plant. That's it. There's no more meaningful explanation for what Ivy is. People think Ivy League and they think, the Ivy League. It's like it's some kind of, I don't know, special skill or something. It's a plant. That's a plant. Now, why do they call it the Ivy League? Well, it's very simple. In the 1800s, there was a group of schools that were covered in ivy, and they had a sports league, and they all were together. That's it. That's it. It's a group of schools that have ivy growing on the brick. Grows on the brick. And if you go there today and see these schools, you will see ivy. That's it. So when someone says ivy, it's a plant. Как сказать по-русски ivy? Plush. It's plush. They're covered in plush. That's it. Alright? That's number one. A lot of people think it's more than that. It's not a nickname. It's not a nick. What are the Ivy League schools? Let's go through them. Who can tell me what the Ivy League schools are? That's one.
Harvard.
That's two. You guys have to say it. They can't say it. You got... Oh, wait, you already said it. All right. That's already said. Yale. Columbia.
Cornell.
No, you're not allowed. Cornell. Brown. Dartmouth. 7. Princeton, Harvard, Columbia, Yale, Brown, Cornell, Dartmouth. 7. CM. Now, you tell me. Wait, I already answered that question. I was going to try to trick you. Okay, here's another thing. MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, they're not Ivy League. But that doesn't mean they're not really good. That doesn't mean they're not in the top tier. So now, remember what I say. This is the truth. When people say, Stanford, I want Ivy League, I want MIT, meet, I want Stanford. Just because they're not in the Ivy League doesn't mean they're not the top. Only thing about Ivy League, which makes it Ivy League, is it was a sports group of schools that did sports, and they're covered in Ivy. They're very good, they're very well ranked, but MIT is not Ivy League, neither is Stanford. So that's my next question is, how many universities and colleges are there in the USA? Guess.
3,000.
Close. More out. More. 4,500. What does it mean to be in the top tier? What does it mean? Top tier. What do you have to be ranked? Out of 4,500, what do you have to be ranked? 200. Approximately, if you're in the top 200, that means you're one of the best programs in the U.S. The reason I'm saying this to you is because there's a lot of people coming to Russia talking about education and telling you that their program is #1 in sports facilities. It's #1 in whatever. But you need to know that the truth is, if you're not in the top 200, it's not a top tier school. So remember that. You need to know a bit about the programs to which you're applying. Number 2, this word, college. I know, I'm going to read your mind. You think it's плохое. I know. I have telepathy. I can feel it. I know you think it's bad. Because here, it's considered inferior to a university, right? Forget it in the U.S. I want you to forget what you know. You know, like Men in Black? You remember Men in Black with Will Smith? I'm just doing this right now, so you forget college. Because in the USA, private liberal arts college is the same thing as a university. I'll prove it to you. Dartmouth is Ivy League, right? It's a college. It's ranked 15 in the United States, Dartmouth. It's big nuts. That's all you need to know. Boston College, top 50. in the United States. Here's the difference between a college and a university. There's two differences. One is colleges usually, обычно, don't have PhD. And number two, they're smaller than a university. That's it. Smaller number of students. That's it. But a community college is inferior to a university. Community college only offers a 2-year associate's degree. They don't have bachelor's or master's. They don't do a 4-year degree, and they don't do a master's degree. So now, you have homework. I want you to remember, the next time you hear someone talk about a college, ask them, private liberal arts college or community college? Because private liberal arts college is like Dartmouth or Boston College. It's the same quality of education, which is very good. I'm so sorry to do this to you. I'm so sorry. I hate these things. I hate talking about them. They make me want to cry. But I have to. I have to tell you the facts. I have to. They're terrible. I hated the SAT. Sucked. You know it as sucked. But I'm here to tell you that if you want the best, you will have to take these exams. I'm so sorry. I hated these tests. I hated it. I hated it. Okay, what is SAT? You hear about SAT? Standardized Achievement Test. It demoralizes you. It humiliates you. But you still have to take it. The best universities in the country need a way to filter the minimum that you need for that university. And they have to use a standardized test. It's not only for international students. American students have to take it as well. If you want to do a master's degree, you will need a GMAT or a GRE. GMAT is for business-related degrees. GRE is for everything else. If a master's degree says they don't require a GMAT or GRE, or if a university says they don't require SAT, you better ask them why. You better do your research. There are reasons, there are ways around it, and I will tell you. It doesn't mean that you can forget what's required, but there are ways. Which is actually what we do. Not tricks, but there are ways to prove that you've taken these tests, sort of. Okay? Don't get too confused. I know it's slow enough, but I'm telling you, you do need these tests. These are minimum scores. The best universities and colleges want to see this TOEFL, approximately. I'm really sorry. Most Americans probably couldn't get that score. It's hard. I know it's hard, and I know it's annoying. Who takes the TOEFL? Has anyone taken the TOEFL here? Yeah? Okay. Anyone else? IELTS? Have you taken IELTS? No? Okay. Because you're from another country and English is not your native language, they will ask for a TOEFL or an IELTS. TOEFL is American, so they will ask for a TOEFL. Again, we have ways around this with our program, which I will talk about at the end. But if you want the best, if you wanted to apply right now to the best universities in the USA, you will need a TOEFL approximately 100. Grade point average. This is like your attestat. This is like all 5s, maybe a few 4s. Maybe. The reason I say this level, is because do you know how many applications Harvard got last year? Guess. How many?
5,000.
A lot. Guess. Okay. They got 20,000 applications. And they only accepted 500 students. 20,000 is not everyone who applied. Those are the people that they looked at. Those are only the people they looked at. So that shows you, these are just the grades that you need. These are just the scores. The real stuff that's going to differentiate you are not your grades. The grades are the elephant in the room. They can see your scores like that. They look at your transcripts, boom, done. They sum you up quickly. What's going to help you are your extracurriculars, personal statement, and letter of recommendation. What are extracurriculars? What is that? It has nothing to do with academics. And universities are looking for that more than ever. This is the way that you show a university who you are, not what test you've taken and how well you've done. I have a story for you. Are you ready for a story? We're almost done, I promise. Then you can ask me questions. But I have a story for you. It's a true story. And it's going to show you why extracurriculars are important. When I was your age, some of you, I wanted to go to a university which was ranked 28 in the United States. My GPA was this good. I didn't need to do a TOEFL, of course, because I'm American. But my SAT was not as good as a 1300. SAT is on a scale of 0 to 1,600, to give you an idea. I couldn't get a 1300. So I applied to Tufts University. And I didn't know if I would be accepted. But I went on an interview in the United States. I was in the US. I went to Boston. I'm from New Jersey. I drove up to Boston with my uncle. We did an interview with Tufts. So I met admissions. I met the admissions department. And I had a discussion.
I want to go to Tufts University because I will work very hard and I want to come here very much.
That's the elephant in the room, okay? Everyone goes in there and says the same thing. You're like, yeah, whatever, kid. Whatever. But then I was introduced to the choir teacher. La 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 la. The choir teacher on an interview. And my uncle said to me, this is a true story. Nivru, I'm not lying to you. My uncle said, why don't you sit down and play on the piano and sing for him Billy Joel's Uptown Girl. So I sat down and sang and played Uptown Girl, she's been living in a white bread world. You know I bet she's with some uptown boy, and all the presents from her uptown boys. She's got a choice. That's one. Then, yeah, you got it. Then I sang some Frank Sinatra. The summer wind came blowing in from across the sea. It lingered there to touch your hair and walk with me. All summer long we sang that song and strode that golden sand. I lost you to that summer wind. Okay? I sang this on an interview. You know what? I got into Tufts University. What is the moral of this story? You all need to sing Frank Sinatra to get into the master's degree or bachelor's. What is the moral of the story?
You made that number.
Yes. Because, and this is what I'm going to talk about now, these requirements are really high. And the best way to convince a university that they should accept you is to not just be a piece of paper. Because when you apply to the master's degree of your choice, or to the bachelor's degree of your choice, from here in Russia, I'm sorry to tell you, you're a piece of paper. You're an application on the internet. They get thousands of applications from all over the world. The best way to convince a university to accept you is to be there in person, to show them who you are, so that you're not just an application. You're more than that. You're an individual, you have gifts, you sing Frank Sinatra, you paint, you can play like Mozart, you can write books, you can dance, you can cook, all of your hobbies. Each of you has hobbies. It's as important to show a university what you do outside of your academics as what you do in your academics. This is the game now. People don't want to just see in the US how well you study. They're not interested. They already assume you study. They want to see why you will add value to that university. So whoever that choir teacher was, he saw me. Who knows if that got me admitted to Tufts? I don't know. But maybe he went to admissions and said, hey, you know this guy Eric? His SAT, but you know what? He just had the courage to sing in my office. This guy's crazy. This guy's nuts. But you know what? He just sang to me in the office. I've never seen that before. I remember him. This is the kind of stuff that gives you an advantage. So I'm going to finish the presentation, giving you a little bit of an insight into what we do with Kings, and then I'll open the floor to you for lots of questions. And I'm not saying everyone needs this, but if you're willing to come to the US, to our program, remember I told you, private liberal arts, not a community college, and you take classes